Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Long time no see. I know I said I was gonna make no more videos, but I wanted to bring it to y'all attention and tell me what y'all think, if y'all agree to it or not. And I'm not saying this out of hate or anger or anything like that. I just think this is the perfect time to talk about it and the perfect subject to talk about because I have noticed a lot of shit and I was beyond pissed about it because I don't like people being manipulated into thinking one way and to doing something, and people are telling other people the same thing. So everybody's jumping on that bandwagon into believing in it. And it has a lot to do with the church. Now, as everybody knows, I used to go to well-known church around my way, who I remain nameless. I'm not gonna name the church, but I wanted to talk about a subject about that church and about many other churches because I feel like it's only right and to alert people's what not to do or what not to be a part of. But it's your choice at the end of the day if you want to be a part of it. Who am I to tell you what church to go to? But I'm sure y'all will agree with me on some level. So, what I was saying here listening to was a sermon about forgiveness. And as y'all know, a while back, I went to one of the services and it was also talking about forgiveness and learning how to talk to each other, learning how to bond with families, and look at people's problems and your problems on the outside. Like, and then always not to be biased about certain things because you know that person. So forgiveness was one of the things I was learning how to do because back then I wouldn't forgive nobody for shit, but now I'm starting to do it. And one thing I felt like I was being manipulated into doing was to turn the other cheek and to ignore certain subjects and ignore certain behaviors in order to make things better. Bump that crap. I don't believe in a lot of stuff that people telling me nowadays because sometimes it doesn't work. And it definitely wasn't working on me for this past year. So I started recreating my own rules and started doing what I thought was best for me. But anyway, that's neither here or there. What I wanted to let everybody know was that nowadays a lot of churches has been manipulating people's into giving their money up to them in order to not feel so bad about themselves or to be looked at in a bad light. Now, this is where I think pastors are messed up at. And it's not just my former church. It's a lot of people's churches all around the world. And I've seen it even on TV. So you can't say that I'm wrong about it because it's the truth. I hate when the congregation is being manipulated to give money in order to be forgiven by the Lord, in order to not be looked at as evil or as a heathen or a black sheep or anything negative for that matter. I think that's really wrong of them. It's so messed up and is not fair. You cannot tell people where they're going to end up at, who they are, what they are, because you want their money. One thing I can't stand is a pegger. So a lot of people was complaining about Valentine's Day, Christmas, and some other holidays where it was all about getting money for presents or it was all about begging for presents, and people was manipulated to thinking that was the worst thing to do. Don't ever in your life look at holidays like that as a holiday where people's begging for anything because that's really wrong to do. That's very selfish on their part and it's really messed up. And I'm trying my best here to not be so evil about it and not curse anything like that, but it was pissing me off because people was feeling really ashamed. One person felt so bad to the point he stopped celebrating these holidays. And what's even worse is that he has a girlfriend. Now, what if his girlfriend wanted a present, especially for Valentine's Day? What you gonna do? Say no? Take the chocolates and go? No. Or what about her birthday or Christmas? Y'all want to do gift exchange. Now you don't want to do it because somebody seeped into your head that it's a bad holiday to celebrate because it's all about begging. If you ask me, I think people need to get that shit out of their heads. Stop thinking it was all about begging because holidays is not all about begging. Okay, it's about family. It's about giving and receiving and rejoicing. It's about being all as one. Like celebrate the joyfulness of this holiday. Celebrate what it really means to celebrate this holiday and everything. And take pride into it. And a lot of people feel like it's been spoiled now because of these people out here who so-called call themselves Christians, Catholics, Romans, or whatever like that. And then you got yourself listening to these priests or pastors, whatever, who doesn't believe in things like that. Now, the pastor that I was dealing with in my former church, he never talked like that to anybody because he believed in the holidays himself. And I truly appreciate the fact that he didn't seep that into anybody's head. He actually said the opposite, which was really nice of him. And it was very sweet of him to not make people feel bad because he could have easily said the same thing, but he made people believe that it's all about giving back. It's all about receiving what you put out into the universe. And people felt good about that. So people started doing a lot of charity work and started giving back to their loved ones. And then he was talking about what it means to share Valentine's Day. So surprisingly, Valentine's Day happened to fall on a weekend, and everybody was like talking about how they wanted to go out to dinner, how they wanted to go away on a trip, and it was like really sweet. So I thought it was sweet. I had no problems with that. But what got me going was, the whole, how you say it, the preaching about not being looked at as a human being. Now, when they got into the whole talking about giving back in order to receive blessings, I started to look at it like, okay, I'm a little skeptical about this, church and about this congregation and why they are starting to get into the nitty gritty of this conversation of not being looked at as an evil or a heathen person or selfish. Because some people thought that giving their money away for no reason, that was like a waste of time. They feel like they shouldn't have to do it. And a lot of people was like, well, why should I have to spend or waste my money on somebody that doesn't even deserve anything that they don't work for? And then you got other groups out here who feels like, okay, if I give my money to my pastor, I won't be looked at as a heathen. I won't be looked at in as a bad person or be look bad in their eyes or whatsoever. And it would make them feel guilty up in their heads. So everybody's dishing out so much money to their pastors in order to be forgiven by the Lord, to be forgiven by them, to not be looked at in a worse way. And I think that was very messed up. If you ask me, I think that's the most messed up thing you could ever do to a person because you're messing with them psychologically now and emotionally. And I think that's not right. God didn't do that to peoples. He didn't do it to anybody when he was alive. And I feel like these pastors and priests should not be doing that to their own church. And I feel like they should be shut down for it. Now, this is going to stir up a lot of controversy, and I don't care because I'm speaking my truth. And I'm going to keep walking in my truth. And I walk by faith, not by sight. And anybody who disagrees and want to go against that, they can kiss my whole black ass because I don't care. Because at the end of the day, what I'm saying is right. And I always protect myself no matter what. So I pray to the Lord night after night that everybody gains enough clarity and strength in their lives to keep going. And so do me. So do I. I feel like I deserve clarity on a lot of things. So I was kind of confused in the church. I didn't know what it meant to give back to them in order to be forgiven. So I looked it up a little bit. And then when I heard similar stories on the news, and then I heard similar stories on the internet, and hearing people talk about it on television shows, it made me think about it. And I was like, you know what? I need to put it out there in the world to let people know that it's not right to do that to peoples. That's robbing them blind. And then I saw a movie that came out in 2011, and I'm not going to repeat the name, but the movie was about forgiveness, and it was about how you say turning your life around. You could be lost, but it's up to you to find yourself and find the God. Like, God knows what you're going through. He knows how you feel on the inside. He knows you're going through a lot of stuff. And stress plays a big role in people's life. So when you're under a certain amount of stress, the only thing you do is turn to what you know. And I don't blame nobody for turning to something that they know all too well. But if it's something that's not beneficial to you and it could really ruin your life, it's up to you to fix it. And now, a lot of people nowadays are starting to fix their life for the better. A lot of people was lost, just like me. I was lost for 10 years straight, and I didn't know how to get back to my regular self. 10 years straight, I was feeling so neglected. I was feeling so immature, feeling very small. I felt like everything around me was being so disrespectful and I know why. I felt like I was living in a bubble and it was horrible. And I feel like the whole world was against me. So I spoke to one or two people about that, and they actually woke me up and made me see that it's not that people are attacking me. It's the fact that people are trying to clarify some things and I didn't want to see it. And I felt like, well, it doesn't sound similar to what my grandmother would say, so no, I didn't want to hear it. Oh, I felt like you're just saying that just to, get under my skin or to get something out of me. And I didn't know that it was actually the truth, but I had to see it in a different way. So God made me see things in a totally different way, in a totally different perspective. And after going through what I went through and hitting rock bottom, I finally saw the light and I finally saw the truth. So, with that being said, I wanted everybody to feel like there is another way to see different, see things. And you don't have to see it in a certain person's way. You can see it in different ways. And it's up to you to actually make the choice to do what you think is right and beneficial to you in your life rather than doing what people expect for you to do, because this is not their life, this is your life. And don't ever make choices based on what people feel about you and what they think of you. Make your life the way you want it. Make the choices that you think is right. But it's always good to take people's advice every now and then, especially if it does sound like it's real. And make sure you see evidence behind it. Have them show receipts. Because if a person has not been a better person than you, then sis, what is the point of even listening to them? Because I'm expecting for you to do good. If your life is all about your kids and your business, your marriage, and your financial, like you got your bag set, children, healthy, looking fly as shit, you looking good, your husband's looking good, your wife is looking good, your family is okay, then you could tell me a thing or two about life. But if you're struggling and you're in the same boat as I am and you have nothing to show for what you're telling me, I don't need to listen to you. I could keep it moving and find somebody who does have their shit together. Because at the end of the day, they know what they're talking about. They got receipts to show. And what I was talking about as far as the church thing was going, a few people in there was mentioning about forgiveness and if they shell out so much money to be forgiven, like is it worth it? Like everybody was like, hold up. In order for you to be forgiven by the Lord and be looked at as an angel or as a saint or as a good person, you have to give up so much money to the pastor. It was like, hell no. Dude, ugh, hell no. I was like, first of all, who told you that lie? That's a scammer. And I was listening to what my exes were saying in the past and then my ex friends, and I was hearing that they don't go to church because they feel like that's a scam. And I felt a little offended by it at first because y'all know the granddaughter of a pastor and strictly Christian. I was like all in the church, so I took offense when they was like going to church is a waste of time because it's all about beggars. And I hate that. And I was like, why y'all so quick to shoot down going to church? It's not that bad as you think it is. And then I kept saying, stop labeling every church the same way because it's not like that. And little did I know, it was actually like that. So one thing all these churches had in common, no matter where you at in the world, is that they are begging for money. They will manipulate your mind into thinking you will never be forgiven and never be sanctified if you don't put out no money. Collection plate comes around, you see 20, 30 bucks up in that thing, or you see hundreds of dollars in there, and everybody was like, oh, I could top that. Let me put another 100. Let me put a 50 in there. I want to be able to walk through the pearly gates. If I do this, I'm going to walk through the pearly gates. I'm going to be forgiven. I was like, is that what y'all think it means? Shelling out big bucks just to make sure you don't go to hell? Make sure you don't be looked at as an evil person? Make sure you will be forgiven by the pastor and the Lord? Like, first of all, nobody in this God green earth can physically talk to the Lord and be in cahoots about doing this. God never said this in the Bible. He never did this to his own peoples, so why pastors are doing it? That's not fair. And I feel like it's so messed up because they doing this to people out here who is so innocent and who really do believe in praising the Lord and to give God the glory. And for y'all to be manipulated just to be forgiven, it's messed up. And it's not that I'm throwing my former church under the bus. It's like I am telling the truth about all churches because they all have that one thing in common. And I feel like they should stop doing that. It's not right. I think it's very messed up. And I feel like pastors should be going to jail for this. They should be charged for this because that's how you say that's robbing people blind. I don't know the correct law terms for it, but that's robbing people blind. And for them to be asking you for money, and then here's a funny thing. these people don't think in their mind that this money that they shelling out to these pastors is being used not only to pay bills for the church, but to buy them cars, to keep up with their wardrobes, to take trips all around the world. And then y'all sit here and wonder, oh, how they managed to get all this money to buy themselves Mercedes and all these classic cars that's costing $40,000 to $50,000. And the funny thing about it is that some of these pastors are retired. They don't work anymore. And their retirement funds are not even covering the insurance on these cars. So I know for a fact that it's not their retirement that's covering anything. I know for a fact that it's everybody's money that they're sitting here paying for their insurances and mortgages and everything. And it's one thing to be able to pay for your phone bill and to be able to pay your rent with your regular retirement money because we don't know where you at, so we don't know how much it is because I cannot assume how much it is. But to be going on these expensive ass country trips, going on cruise ships and stuff, those are not cheap at all. And I had friends who been on cruise ships that was telling me how expensive it is, and it took them more than a year or two to come up with the money for that. So I know for a fact that these retirement funds ain't covering the cost for a family to go on these trips with. And it's not just little petty trips like you going to Hawaii or you going to Florida or you going to Texas or whatever like that or Mexico. You're going to overseas. Like it's more expensive going overseas than it is to go to Hawaii, to California, to Mexico, to San Jose or all this, Palm Beach, tropical places. Okay, I'm gonna name a couple of trips that my former pastor has been on that is the perfect example of what I was talking about. So for his birthday, he went to Jerusalem. Then on his anniversary, he went to another country that was overseas. Then he went back to Jerusalem. Then he went to Africa. And then he went on a 2-week cruise ship trip. And he came back to the United States only to go to Florida. And everybody was saying here like, what? He be doing a damn thing. Like he's over here traveling, he's doing this, he's doing that. And everybody was like, okay, like what's going on? Everybody was like they was supporting him and giving him love for doing this, but they at the same time was also confused, like where you getting all this money from? And I said the same thing. For him to be taking trips that's lasting for 2 months, it's like ridiculous. And I was like, okay, something is going on here. And then I started to put two and two together. No wonder why he managed to come up with $189,000 and it came up with $400,000 all within a year. Because he managed to manipulate everybody into giving him money. So I couldn't believe my ears when I heard that, and I was like, okay, it's crazy. It's crazy. And I was just looking around and I'm like, y'all all are stupid for giving out so much money. And y'all don't even know what this money is going to. Then, about a year and a half ago when I went to church, he said that they bought a building. And then they said that they was looking to expand the church building into a bigger building. None of that happened, as you can see. And this talk was about a year and a half ago. None of this happened. The church is still not expanded. There's no building or nothing. So, well, Long story short, gotta keep the lips popping. I ain't trying to start no trouble, girl. I'm just letting y'all know. Y'all need to be careful out there in these churches. Make sure you don't get duped into getting, to giving them their money. It's okay to go to church. Continue to go to church and praise that Lord. Give God the love and the praise and the glory. But I don't think it should cost you money in order for you to praise the Lord and be forgiven. I'm going to still take my behind the church every now and then, but I ain't giving out no money. Every time I was going to church back then for like 2.5 years straight, I never put money in a collection plate because I am not going to be manipulated into thinking I'm doing the right thing or be forgiven by the Lord just to put money in their pockets so they can live better lives than me. So, just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, have a good night.